Hey guys, so this is looking at the equation for surface area and volume for rectangular prisms. So it's just taking what we did last on Monday one step further. The reason we're doing this is we're going to get you more familiar with how to use the equations to find surface area and volume, because then we're going to switch to things that aren't rectangles, so other shapes. And knowing how to use the equations and where they came from makes life a little easier. So the reason we want an equation, first off, and the reason we do algebra is instead of having to count the squares making the length and solving it every time, you already have it done for us in a form where you just need to insert the numbers. So basically it's like plugging into a calculator, and the math's already done for you. It knows whether you don't have to guess if you're multiplying, dividing what. Um, you actually know. You just literally, that's why we use variables, is because a variable can be any number you want it to be for any question. So if you know how to do one rectangular prism, you know how to do all of them. So it's not to make the work harder, it's to already have done the work. So for surface area, if you think of what we found, it's each area of each face doubled. So the front would be length times height, the side would be width times height, the top would be length times width. And then we double it because you have a top and a bottom, a front and a back, a left and a right. So if we look at that, and let's just shorten that into the first letter, L, W, H. So the top is length times width, L times W, so doubled would be 2 times L times W. The side is width times height, so both sides would be double that, 2 times width times height. The front is length times height, so doubled the area would be twice that. So if you put those together, you get an equation. So it's 2 times length times width plus 2 times width times height plus 2 times length times height. For volume, it's actually really easy because you find length times width to find the area of the bottom, and then you just multiply it by how many levels you have, which is basically the height. So the equation is actually length times width times height. Or if you want to shorten it just to make, and that's why we use letters rather than words, is just so we don't have to write as much. V equals L times W times H. So if you actually were to do this, this is what the worksheet looks like. You get a prism. So length is 8.4, width is 2.1, height is 2.2. By the way, if you call that the length and that the width, you're really going to get the same answer. You're just saying different sides are different side. It doesn't really make any difference as long as you stay really consistent. So I'm saying this is my length, that's my width, that's my height. So write it out. Write out the equation, plug in the numbers. By the way, if you see brackets, that means multiplying. Instead of having to put an X everywhere and making it really long, we just put a bracket. So 2 length times width is 2, length is 8.4, width is 2.1, times 2 times width times height. So 2 times 2.1 times 2.2 plus 2 times length times height. 2 times 8.4 times 2.2. Multiply them all together, then you add them, and you get an answer, 81.48 or 81.5 centimeters squared. By the way, take a note, the area is centimeters squared. Every area, because you're multiplying a length by a length, you get a length squared. You don't need to do anything. You don't need to square your answer or anything. That's just always centimeters squared or meters squared or whatever your unit is. Same with this, you're going to notice it's cubed. You don't need to do anything. It's just because you're multiplying a centimeter by a centimeter by a centimeter, so the unit itself becomes cubed. You just need to include it. You don't need to do anything. That doesn't change the math at all. Volume, same thing. You write it out, write out your equation, plug in 8.4 for L, 2.1 for W, 2.2 for height, and you get an answer for the volume. Now, this may seem really sort of simple. I hope it does, but the equations will start getting more difficult as we go towards triangular prisms, cylinders, spheres, stuff like that. But the same idea is you just write out the equation, write out the numbers, make sure you plug the right number into the right thing, and the equation tells you what math to do with them. All right? And that is actually all there is. Thank you very much.